welcome to the Horror with Marchese Buller show, and today we're going to talk about a subject that Gary brought up just before we recorded this, because sometimes our subjects are just off the fly.
Yes, you won't believe it, but they are.
And Gary, what is this episode about?
Do you believe in ghosts? It's an interesting subject, and I find it to be a pretty cool icebreaker sometimes when you're with someone you don't really know, because it brings up some quite interesting stories and some quite interesting opinions on things. You see, I have my own opinions. I don't necessarily believe there's heaven or hell or anything like that, or a man with a big white curly beard, being who, knows the difference between good and bad, and when you die, you go to him. But I do kind of believe that when you die, that's not necessarily the end of it, but from a scientific point of view. And yeah, I think I do kind of believe in ghosts. I've had a couple of strange experiences. More recently, my dad, who was a staunch critic when it came to ghosts, was absolutely adamant that he saw my mum. She came and spoke to him. I mean, he wasn't dreaming, he was wide awake. And this is a guy that once laughed at me for saying I'd seen a ghost. So I've seen that side of it as well. So I do believe there is something going on. I think they operate in a different frequency to us. I don't think it's as simple as me and you communicating now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe in ghosts. And I was just kind of wondering, one, do you believe in ghosts? Well, and two, what do the listeners think? Do they believe? And if they do believe in ghosts, do you believe it's a family member coming to you from heaven, or a person coming to you from heaven, or do you think it's something else? So yeah, well,
I've heard many things. I've heard sometimes that it's actually demons tricking you to make you think, sort of like phone call scammers that know something about you. These demons will take the form of your loved one and make you think that it's them. Just to create mischief and stuff like that. Then I heard, that, like you said, the whole religious aspect, without getting too deep into the religious aspect, because I'm Catholic, but you do wonder, because faith is just faith. You have faith in it. You don't really know what's going to happen to you after you move on. They say that there's other dimensions, that there's other planes of existence. I think a Dean Koontz novel one time, from the corner of his eye, where the kid could go he can go into these other dimensions, and he had this power. And supposedly, even in some scientific journals, they're trying to figure this out about other dimensions and space and all the mysteries of our universe. Then there's the ones that say that it's echoes. You have echoes in time, where the echo is so strong that it just keeps repeating itself, and then that's why sometimes you'll see the same thing happening over and over again.
I think they call it stone wall theory. Some of them, it's because there's a theory that certain minerals and stones have the same recording ability as tapes. They can record and under certain conditions replay stuff that's been happened in the past, and ghosts aren't really just like an element of nature. It's just something that happens. So where do you stand on it?
I mean, my wife watches this show. I forgot, it's about this ex-detective, this ex-New York detective, and this psychic medium. They go to this place. She goes and looks at it. She gets what she feels from it. He does research. He does his detective work. He gets his side of the story. They come together with the people who called them, and it's pretty cool. And if it's true, okay, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying if it is true, it's uncanny how she knows things that he found out, and they never came together from the whole, from the get-go. So if this is true, and all these ghost shows like Ghost Hunters and everything are really capturing these things, then that's something to look at. That's very interesting. I'm still open-minded. I'm not a person who's going to be like, there's no ghosts. I don't necessarily will say that there is. I won't necessarily say there isn't. There have been weird things that I've seen that could probably have been explained away. Here's a weird thing. I always wake up around 3 a.m. in the morning, right? When I go to check my... Actually, I can show everybody here. My this thing, temperature gauge.
Mm-hmm.
You see how it says 66.2? This, all three will be 666 when I wake up in the morning. And I'm saying to myself, that's kind of freaky, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then they also said, I looked up online that there's certain types of the night when, if you wake up at a certain time of the night over and over again, it could be a body organ. And I think 3 o'clock was like the liver or something. So your body cycles through all your organs, and that's another whole subject. But
yeah,
I have no idea. You know, some things are interesting. Some things are, you could just say, oh, please give me a break.
I tend to find with some of the programs that you get, it discredits the whole thing.
Because you don't know what's real or not, you know?
Yeah, some of them are clearly bull. Yeah. I've been ghost hunting twice, and both times I've been the big cynic. And you know, my other half, she doesn't believe in ghosts, but she's always been the one that's been really spooked when we've done these things. I mean, we went to an asylum in Liverpool that closed. It was like, you know, loads of people had died there. And I went to another asylum with a friend of mine in Leicester, and both times, you know, I was the one that was like, hang on a minute, I don't think that's what you think it is, you know? And when you watch these ghost hunting episodes, you know, and every night these guys go to these places, something happens, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And any ghost hunter will tell you, you know, anyone, you don't get stuff happening every night.
No.
You know, it's sometimes you'll go weeks without seeing something.
They just need it for the ratings or the you know, the channel. Or,
so I think they tell little white lies. I think they take stories that have happened, and I think they sort of reenact it a little bit just for the purpose of making an interesting show. I've seen a couple of things. First sort of proper ghost I thought I saw was in a textile mill in a place called Chisworth, which is in the Peak District in England. It's quite a rural area, and they were closing this mill down. There was all sort of fencing around the outside of it. And me and my friends were about 18 years old at the time. We snuck in with a camera, just messing around to sort of film. We were filming a horror movie. Story short, you could get in, you could walk around. It was really interesting, man. You know, it was really spooky. It was broad daylight though. It was sunny, middle of the afternoon. There was like a big long floor. We were like 3 floors up, I think, at the time. There was this big long floor where the machines used to be, you know, the old sewing machines and the textile machines. And at the very end of it, there was a foreman's office. And the foreman's office was like all mahogany, and they had a portrait of the Queen still on the wall and stuff, you know, from back in the day. And you open a drawer and there'd be full of pencils, you know, like draftsman's pencils. It was really, really interesting. But the last thing on our minds, honestly, was ghosts. We were there to film like a spoof, but it was broad daylight. You know what I mean? It was most of the windows had been smashed open, and you know you could hear like the ambient noise of a road nearby and stuff like that. So it wasn't like it was spooky, you know.
Yeah.
This building was like L-shaped, and me and my friend and the foreman's office was in the elbow of the L. Mm-hmm. A couple of our friends ran off. There was 4 of us. Two of my friends ran off. Me and another guy called Gary, who's a close friend of mine. We're sort of lagging behind a little bit. Anyway, we turned a corner into the foreman's office, and there was a bit of a partition with a window which overlooked the sewing space or the textile space.
Yeah.
And as we turned into the room, we both saw someone stood there, and it was broad daylight. You just saw it like a shadow, and this person sort of ducked down behind the window really quickly.
Yeah.
So it turned to look at us and then ducked down, and I looked at Gary and Gary looked at me, and we sort of mouthed, that must be one of our friends, you know, sort of waiting ahead to jump out on us because the door was right next to that window. So we'd open the door to go out into the main area. We thought they were going to jump out on us, and anyway, we sort of burst through the door trying to sort of get the jump on them, and there was nobody there. The room was empty. It was weird, man.
You both saw it, right?
We both saw it at the same time. You know, we both looked at each other to say, you know, that must be one of our friends, you know. Yeah. It was a solid shadow, no light passed through it. You know, it wasn't like it was something that was on the wall. There was nothing for it to reflect on. You know, there's no glass in the window frame.
Yeah.
So that was really, really strange, and it wasn't even scary. You know, it was only afterwards when we spoke about it, like, that was really weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And we spent another 4 or 5 hours in there filming. We didn't see a thing, but yeah, that was one of the things.
And you didn't get that on tape, right?
No, we didn't. But the fact that my friend saw it, and there's no reason why he'd lie, and his reaction, when
Yeah.
we saw it, and both of us thought it was just our friend. There was no, oh, that's spooky. It was just like, that's someone about to jump out on us, you know. That's one of our friends messing about.